Welcome back to Instructional Design Conversations here at Royal Roads University. Our topic for this segment is writing objectives. So learning objectives need to be measurable and observable. We'll start off with that. And they help us to examine skills that students develop through interactions. There is an ABCD structure that we propose that a learning objective should have. And so A is for the audience, or who the learning objective is being written for. B is for behavior. What behavior should the student be able to demonstrate after they have completed that particular learning activity? C is for the condition. Essentially, under what circumstances would they be able to demonstrate this particular skill? And D is for the degree. So how much would need to be accomplished in order for you to determine that they have achieved that learning objective? So remember, audience, behavior, criteria, and degree. So the question is, what are your thoughts on learning objectives? So I'll start us off. I am a firm believer that learning objectives are really, really important, and crafting them in measurable and observable terms is very important because I see them connecting the learning activities and the assessment components in a way that they all make sense. So if you're going to be crafting learning objectives that are very, very general, I think it's going to be challenging to identify what kinds of learning activities you're going to need to design, and also when you go to do your assessment components, you may not necessarily get the information that you want. You may not be able to determine, did they achieve this learning objective or not? So I'll leave that out there and invite comments now.
You've convinced me.
I'm a fan of the. I'm a fan. I like to use the objectives when I'm creating assignments, and then once the assignments are created, then the objectives really help inform me when I'm creating the grading rubric for my students. I feel the deeper and more specific your objectives are, the students, they have a better understanding of exactly what it is they need to do by the end of the course to successfully complete it.
I think objectives are key to writing effective assignments that assess the learning that's happened. I often think if you're having a hard time writing the assignment or matching it with the objective, that it probably means you need to step back and go back to that objective writing stage, that maybe something hasn't gone right there. Now there are some topics or disciplines where objectives can be more challenging to write. In disciplines where something is learned gradually over several semesters, and you need to be able to write something to say that this is an iterative process. You are learning to do, or you are becoming a master at this particular skill. But within program-based curriculum, there's a very distinct set of what needs to be done when, and it's very useful to have objectives that set out exactly what's the purpose of this course and what they're supposed to have when they get out.
Yes, so go ahead, VJ.
I'm not going to trash learning objectives. One of the things I think we get hung up on, though, as instructional designers, is sort of steps in the design, and that this one needs to be completed before moving to the next one. And I think that sometimes, especially when we're working with a SME, especially when we're doing that, who might instruct the course, might actually be the teacher, I think that sometimes it has to be almost a circular process. So what are our learning objectives? And those might be a little nebulous when you first start. And then as you move down, down through the rest of it, as you're trying to construct assignments or learning activities, you may then be able to go back and tighten up that learning objective. So, and I think that instructors find it very tedious. It's difficult, it's hard to write learning objectives, and therefore a lot of them just want to throw them out. Why do we need them? So I think we need to make it a little easier and maybe and they aren't tight to start out, and then we come back to it.
Yes.
I think as an instructional designer, keeping those learning objectives relevant within the course is also one of your tasks, because there's a tendency for drift. You can have revisions of a course an assignment that starts to change in order to make it clearer to the students, in order to make it easier to assess, in order to take account of some technology, and if you're not careful you can find that it's got out of sync with the learning objectives, and you look back at them and say, well, how is this being assessed here? And I think they can sometimes be regarded by instructors perhaps almost as the sort of the fine print or the small print. Yeah, I agree to that. Now let's get on with the stuff I need to do, which is working out how I find a case study for this particular circumstance, and making sure that you can tie them back and keep them connected with what's going on. It's one of the key roles in reviewing a course.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts. Join us in the next segment of Instructional Design Conversations.